Okay, welcome back in. I'm going to be reviewing uh, Thursday's games from the National Hockey League. There were a total of 10 games on tap, so therefore 20 teams were trying to get 2 points, respectively. Starting in La Belle Province, as the Montreal Canadiens played host to the Minnesota Wild. One thing I want to talk about before I get into the review of this game is I'm pretty sure, like I'm 99.9% sure that Marc-Andre Fleury will be retiring by the end of the season, no matter how the regular season and playoffs pan out. And obviously, being from Quebec, playing in his home province, I'm sure was very meaningful. And I got to say that even though, that's going to be a spoiler alert, even though you can already see the score, even though the Habs lost, it was very nice to see the crowd cheering on his name and basically cheering on like their local kid. It's just unfortunate he didn't play for Montreal, and that's one thing I've always wondered. There's going to be a lot of what ifs whenever it comes to certain players and sports. And imagine if he could have played in front of that home crowd. I'm sure he would have embraced that opportunity. But at least he got a chance to play in the arena. It just wasn't for the Canadians. So Lion Ogrum will get his first goal of the season in the second period, assisted by Gaudreau and Trennan, 341 of the middle frame. Marco Rossi would increase the lead to 2-0 at the 5 minute and 47 mark. That would be his 18th goal of the season, assisted by Foligno and Ryan Hartman. In the third period, Devon Shore would get his first goal as a member of the Minnesota Wild, assisted by Rossi, 5:56 of the third. And then Frederic Gaudreau, even though Montreal was down by 3, they still pulled their goalie. He would get the empty net goal, notching his 10th goal of the year from Trennan and Spurgeon. And that goal happened with 1 minute and 27 seconds to go. So obviously the Wild won 4-0, and Fleury became the first goalie to get a shutout when he was in his teenagers. Hard to believe he's been in the league for over 20 years, and also getting a shutout in his 40s. So he's had one hell of a career, and once he does retire, he's no doubt going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, winning 3 Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Granted, Matt Murray ended up taking over the starting job in 2016 and 17, so he wasn't the starting goalie, but he was still a big part of that organization, especially when they won those 3 cups. The next game took place in Boston as we had the Bruins playing host to the Winnipeg Jets. And after they got embarrassed against the Buffalo Sabres, I thought maybe the Bruins would have a little bit more fight back. Unfortunately, now they've lost 2 games in a row, giving up 7 and 6 goals respectively. So Vladislav Nebestikov would kick things off in the first period, getting his 10th goal of the season on the power play, assisted by Niederreiter and Perfetti, 2:55 of the opening frame. Mark Scheifele would increase the lead to 2-0, notching his 30th goal of the year, assisted by Pionk and Sandberg, 11:31 of the first. Brad Marchand would finally get the Bruins on the board, getting a power play goal, his 19th of the season, assisted by Lindholm and Pasternak, 15:34 of the first frame. There was no scoring in the second. Just 11 seconds into the third, Elias Lindholm would get a shorthanded goal, assisted by Zaka, 11 seconds into the third frame. But unfortunately, after that, it was all Winnipeg after. Mark Scheifele would score on that same power play, getting his 31st goal of the year, assisted by Ehlers and Morrissey, 35 seconds of the third. Nick Ehlers would get his 16th goal of the season, just 1 minute and 17 seconds into the third. So 3 goals were scored in the minute and 17 seconds. So a pretty wild start to the third period. For Ehlers, again, that'd be his 16th of the season, unassisted. So at that point, it was 4-2 in favor of the Jets. Parker Ford, I believe, would get his first goal in his NHL career, and if that's the case, congratulations. Assisted by Iafallo and Logan Stanley, 5:57 of the third. And then the Bruins were down by 3, thinking that they could get a bit of a comeback. Unfortunately, it fell short, and they were on the power play too, with under 1 minute to go. And Kyle Connor would get his 30th goal of the season, a shorthanded goal, an empty netter. He would also get his 30th goal of the season, assisted by Namestnikov, and that goal happened with 37 seconds remaining in the contest. The Jets would win big, 6-2. Off to Canada's national capital against the United States national capital city and the Ottawa Senators and the Washington Capitals. There was no scoring in the first period. Riley Gregg would kick things off for the Senators in the second, getting a power play goal, his 8th of the season, assisted by David Perron. Hard to believe that it's almost February, and Perron just got his first assist as a member of the Senators. And Thomas Chabot, 4:08 of the second frame. Connor McMichael would tie the game up in the second, getting his 18th goal of the season, assisted by Pierre-Luc Dubois and Matt Roy, 7:43 of the second period. Josh Norris would get a shorthanded goal with 2 minutes and 23 seconds remaining in the second. There was a penalty shot goal as well, 17:37 of the second frame. Shane Pinto would increase the lead to 3-1, also getting another shorthanded goal for the Sens. So I believe they had two shorthanded goals on the same penalty kill. For Pinto, that'd be his 10th goal of the year, assisted by Norris and Sanderson. And that goal happened with 1 minute and 45 seconds to go in the second. Dylan Strome would cut into the lead, getting his 14th of the year on the power play from John Carlson and Alex Ovechkin, 7:58 of the third period. Jake Sanderson would increase the lead to 4-2 at the 10-minute and 38-second mark of the third. For Sanderson, that'd be his third goal of the year on the power play from Giroux and Tim Stützle. Alex Ovechkin would score, inching closer to that goal-scoring record, cutting into the lead. That'd be his 23rd goal of the year on the power play from Protas and McMichael. And that goal happened with 6 minutes and 59 seconds to go in the frame. Dylan Strome would tie the game up at the 14-minute and 31-second mark. For Strome, that'd be his 15th goal of the year from Ovechkin and Tom Wilson. We would need extra time in this one. And in the extra frame, Thomas Chabot would get the game-winning goal for the Senators, his 4th of the season from Shane Pinto and Josh Norris, 1 minute and 46 seconds into the overtime frame. So 5-4 would be the final score from Ottawa. Tampa Bay played host to the Los Angeles Kings. In the first period, Brandon Hagel would get his 21st goal of the year, assisted by Gun Calvis, I believe. That'd be his second assist of the season. And Andrei Vasilevsky, the goaltender, would assist on the goal. So the Lightning had a 1-0 lead in the first period. There was no scoring in the second. Hagel would get his second goal of the game, 15:39 of the third period, his 22nd of the season, assisted by Kucherov. And then the Kings would pull their goalie with roughly about 2 minutes to go in the game. They had a power play as well, but unfortunately they weren't able to score. Anthony Cirelli would get credited for the shorthanded goal, his 19th of the season, assisted by Hagel. So Hagel had 2 goals and an assist in a 3-0 victory. The Carolina Hurricanes played host to the Chicago Blackhawks. Despite the fact the Blackhawks had a power play late in the first, Seth Jarvis would actually strike for the Hurricanes, getting his 20th goal of the season, shorthanded, assisted by Jaska, I believe, or Jaska. Ilya Mikheyev would score with 1 minute and 22 seconds remaining in the period, getting his 9th goal of the season, assisted by Nick Foligno and Jason Dickinson. In the second period, Mikko Rantanen will get his first goal as a member of the Carolina Hurricanes since that big trade between the Hurricanes, Blackhawks, and the Avalanche. And kind of ironic that the Blackhawks are retaining half of Rantanen's salary. So basically, Chicago is paying Rantanen to score against them. So he would score, getting a goal, his 26th of the season from Roslovic and Orlov, 4:52 of the second frame. Jacob Slavin would increase the lead to 3-1, 5:59 of the second period, getting his 4th goal of the season from Blake and Jaska. Connor Bedard would score in the third, cutting into the deficit, making it 3-2, getting his 15th goal of the season, assisted by Seth Jones, 6:29 of the third period, but unfortunately Chicago was not able to mount a comeback, so the score would remain 3-2. The Philadelphia Flyers played host to the New York Islanders. Simon Holmstrom would score in the second period, opening up the scoring for the Islanders, getting his 13th goal of the year, assisted by Perunovich and Jean-Gabriel Pageau, 10:02 of the second frame. Mark Gatcomb would get his first National Hockey League goal, so congratulations, assisted by McLean and Siplikov, and that goal happened 17:08 of the second frame. In the third period, 9:53 in that third period, Kyle Palmieri would increase the lead to 3-0, assisted by Cizikas and Palesh. So the Islanders would go into Philly and shut them out 3-0. The Calgary Flames played host to the Anaheim Ducks. Frank Vatrano would kick things off for the Anaheim Ducks, despite the fact that they were shorthanded. Vatrano would get a shorthanded goal, his 15th of the season, assisted by Jake Lacombe, 11:54 of the first period. Adam Klapka, I believe, would get his first National Hockey League goal. So there's a lot of firsts on this particular night, assisted by Possible and Bean, just 15 seconds into the second period. Blake Coleman would score with 44 seconds to go in the second, giving the Flames their first lead of the night, his 12th of the season, assisted by Coronado. Speaking of Coronado, he'd get on the goal scorer sheet himself in the third, increasing the lead to 3-1. For Matt, that'd be his 12th goal of the year, assisted by Coleman. So those guys both had a goal and an assist, respectively. And then the Ducks were down by 2 with over 2 minutes to go. Pulled their goalie. Matt Coronado will get his second goal of the game, assisted by Hanley. And for Coronado, that'd be his 13th goal of the year. The Flames would win this contest 4-1. The Edmonton Oilers played host to the Detroit Red Wings. In the first period, Leon Draisaitl would kick things off for the Oilers, getting a power play goal, his 36th of the season, from Bouchard and McDavid, 6:49 of the opening frame. Jeff Skinner would increase the lead to 2-0, getting his 9th of the year from Hyman and Henrique, 10:29 of the first frame. Michael Rasmussen would cut into the lead, getting his 8th goal of the year from Bergeron and Soderblom. Wow, try saying that name 5 times fast. Roughly halfway through the period, making it 2-1 for the Oilers. Dylan Larkin, the captain, would get his 22nd of the season, assisted by Casper, 11:47 of the second period. There was no scoring in the third and no scoring in overtime. We would need a shootout to settle this one. And as you can see, Lucas Raymond will get the game-winning goal for Detroit. They would win 3-2 via a shootout. The Vegas Golden Knights played host to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Thomas Hertl would kick things off for the Vegas Golden Knights, getting his 20th goal of the year from Dorofeyev and Haig, 4:58 of the opening frame. Adam Fantilli would tie the game up with 1 minute and 26 seconds to go in the first, getting his 15th of the season unassisted. Now, it's hard to believe there was no scoring in the second or the third, so we would need overtime to settle this one. And Cole Sillinger would get the game-winning goal just 52 seconds into the overtime frame. For Sillinger, that would be his 8th goal of the year, assisted by Werenski and Kent Johnston. And the last game from Thursday took place in Seattle as we had 2 Pacific teams duking it out. The San Jose Sharks were the visiting team in this matchup. So Chandler Stevenson would kick things off for the Kraken in the first period, getting his 9th goal of the year from Bjorkstrand and Tolvanen, 3:55 of the opening frame. Carl Grundstrom would score with 2 minutes and 5 seconds remaining in the first, getting his 2nd goal of the season, assisted by Smith and Granlund. Oliver Bjorkstrand would give the Kraken a 2-1 lead, 2 minutes and 3 seconds in the second period. For Bjorkstrand, that'd be his 15th goal of the season, assisted by Stevenson and Vince Dunn. Brandon Montour would increase the lead to 3-1, getting his 9th goal of the year, assisted by Shane, 2:54 of the second period. Jaden Schwartz would increase the lead to 4-1, 5 minutes and 58 seconds in the second period, getting his 18th goal of the year, assisted by Oleksiak. Brandon Montour will get his 2nd goal of the game, his 10th of the season, on the power play from McCann and Stevenson, 7:52 of the second period. Tyler Toffoli would finally stop the bleeding, getting the Sharks their 2nd goal of the game, his 18th of the season, assisted by Celebrini and Thurn, 8:06 of the third period. Eli Tolvanen would increase the lead to 6-2, getting his 15th goal of the season, assisted by Mahura, 12:18 of the third period, increasing the lead to 6-2, and that's where he'd stand at the end of regulation. All right, so we'll now take a look at the standings as per usual. So we'll start it in the Atlantic. The Florida Panthers find themselves on top of that division, but just with a narrow lead. They are 30-19-3. They have 63 points. The Toronto Maple Leafs have a similar record, 30-19-2. They have 62 points. And the Ottawa Senators just find themselves 4 points behind Toronto. And they're third in the division with a record of 27-20-4, good enough for 58 points. The Washington Capitals are still atop of the Metropolitan Division with a record of 34-11-6. They have 74 points. The Hurricanes are 6 points behind them in second place with a record of 32-16-4. And the New Jersey Devils, to round out the top 3 of the Metropolitan Division, have a record of 29-18-6 for 64 points. They are 4 points behind Carolina. The two teams in the wild card look like this. The Tampa Bay Lightning have a record of 27, 20, and 3. They have 57 points. They're just 1 point behind Ottawa for that third and final spot in the Atlantic. And as for the Blue Jackets, they are 25, 19, and 7. They also have 57 points, back in a playoff spot. So now take a look at the rest of the teams in the Eastern Conference. The Boston Bruins are 25, 22, and 6. They have 56 points, just 1 point behind the Blue Jackets and the Lightning, respectively. The Detroit Red Wings are 25, 21, and 5. They have 55 points. They're 2 points out of a playoff spot. The New York Islanders have 53 points. The record is 23, 20, and 7. Montreal is 24, 22, and 5. The New York Rangers are 1 point behind them with a record of 24, 22, and 4. They have 52 points. The Philadelphia Flyers also have 52 points with a record of 23, 24, and 6. The Pittsburgh Penguins are 21, 24, and 8. They have 50 points. And the Buffalo Sabres find themselves in the basement of the Eastern Conference with a record of 19, 26, and 5. All right, off to the Western Conference in the Central Division. The Winnipeg Jets are still in first place in that division with a record of 36, 14, and 3. They have 75 points. The Minnesota Wild are in second place with a record of 31, 17, and 4. They have 66 points. And the Stars are 1 point behind them with a record of 32, 17, and 1. In the Pacific Division, very tight. The Edmonton Oilers, even though they lost in a shootout, they're still in first place of that Pacific Division with a record of 32, 15, and 4. They have 68 points. The Vegas Golden Knights have the same amount of points with a record of 31, 15, and 6. And the Los Angeles Kings are 26, 17, and 6. They have 58 points. The two teams in the wild card are the Colorado Avalanche. They have a record of 29, 21, and 2. They have 60 points. The Calgary Flames are 25, 18, and 7. They have 57 points. And then rounding out the rest of the Western Conference, it looks like this. The Vancouver Canucks are just 1 point behind the Flames for that last wild card spot. They have a record of 23, 17, and 10. The Utah Hockey Club are 21, 21, and 8. They have 50 points. The Blues also have 50 points with a record of 23, 24, and 4. The Seattle Kraken are 23, 27, and 3. They have 49 points. The Anaheim Ducks are 21, 24, and 6. They have 48 points. The Nashville Predators are 18, 24, and 7. They have 43 points. The Chicago Blackhawks are 16, 30, and 5. They have 37 points. And the San Jose Sharks find themselves at the bottom of the Western Conference, but they're just 1 point behind Chicago with a record of 15, 33, and 6. All right, that's going to take care of Thursday's recap from the National Hockey League. As I said before, I do want to try to be more consistent with my hockey reviews as we are getting into the last little bit of the hockey season. Yes, there's still technically 2 full months of meaningful hockey, and then I think at the start of April is when the regular season ends. So we're only really 3 months away from the regular season coming to an end. All right, that's going to take care of this recap, as I said before. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. Until next time, and as always, take care.